Episode 15, A New Fuel, Petronium 3. On December 31st, 1879, Benz, who had created the gasoline engine, was unable to build a car using it. The financial difficulties due to the poor performance of his business were an issue, but his indecisiveness was an even bigger problem. Unlike Benz, who was hesitating as if wondering whether to eat a prepared meal with his hands or a spoon, Daimler and Maybach were concerned with something entirely different rather than financial or technical issues. Although Otto prohibited research on engines using petroleum as fuel, Daimler continuously insisted on using petroleum, which had shown a powerful explosion as a fuel. The more Daimler insisted, the more Otto saw Gottlieb Daimler as a competitor and refused to accept his proposal. Meanwhile, the Otto engine, which used gas as fuel, achieved a revolutionary output of 2.2 horsepower and a thermal efficiency exceeding 10% thanks to Maybach's continuous improvements, and it was exhibited at the 1881 Paris World's Fair, winning the highest prize, the gold medal. Now, the Otto engine had become a globally renowned engine. Then, one day in August 1881, Otto summoned Daimler and Maybach to his office. As the two entered, Otto greeted them with a bright face and asked about their recent activities. Otto mentioned that the two had seemed very busy lately, and that it had been difficult to see them. He had vaguely suspected that Daimler and Maybach were working on something behind his back, but without solid evidence, he could only harbor doubts internally. After a brief, awkward silence, Otto looked at Daimler and got to the point. He said that he wanted Daimler and Maybach to visit Russia. Although the company was achieving great success in the European market, Otto was more interested in the even larger Russian market. Otto requested that the two visit Russia to inspect the technological level and factories while conducting market research. Daimler thought for a moment before replying that it was difficult to make an immediate decision. He mentioned that careful discussion was necessary, especially since Maybach had recently had a son. Otto said that he considered them the right people to pioneer the Russian market and that he would await good news. He ended the conversation with a smile and sent the two away. That evening at Daimler's house, Daimler and his wife Emma, Maybach and his wife, who was also Emma's close friend, Bertha Wilhelmine Habermas, gathered for dinner. Maybach and Habermas were married in 1878. Habermas was holding a cute baby in her arms, and this child would later establish the company Maybach Modernbau and create the Maybach brand. He was Karl Maybach. After dinner, they had a conversation, and soon the topic of Otto's business trip to Russia came up. After listening to Daimler's explanation, Emma curiously asked him a question. Daimler replied that Russia was so vast that proper market research would take at least 2 to 3 months, making it a difficult decision to make lightly. In fact, Daimler and Maybach were optimistic about the trip to Russia. Although the trip was intended for market research as per company orders, they had a strong spirit of inquiry as engineers and scientists. Russia might have machines they were not yet aware of, and there was a possibility of discovering new technologies and ideas. However, Emma did not like being away from her husband for a long time. But she understood that Daimler and Maybach placed great importance on this trip, so she ultimately decided to let him go. However, the issue was her friend and Maybach's wife, Habermas. She was newly married and had just given birth to a baby, so it seemed difficult for her to accept sending her husband to distant Russia. Thinking about this, Emma carefully asked Habermas for her opinion. Habermas was troubled by the idea of sending her husband away while their baby was still young, but after hearing Emma's decision, she paused to think. She looked at her baby, deep in thought, then smiled at Emma and made her decision. She respected Emma's deeply considered decision and decided to let her own husband go as well. Hearing this, Maybach and Daimler were rather worried because their wives made the decision more easily than expected. Maybach looked at Habermas and told her that if she did not want him to go, he would not go to Russia. He asked her to be honest with him. Daimler also reminded Emma that her health was not in the best condition and said that they could send someone else on the trip instead. She said that she understood Emma's decision to send her husband despite her poor health. She admitted that sending her husband away so soon after giving birth was not easy, but she sympathized with Emma's feelings. Habermas pointed out that this might be their only opportunity to research the Russian market before Daimler and Maybach's new engine was completed. She added that this opportunity could play a crucial role in taking their engine beyond Otto's engine to a broader world. Hearing her words, Emma quietly nodded and looked at Daimler and Maybach. Daimler and Maybach had not expected their wives to understand them so deeply. Emma and Habermas' thoughts for their husbands eventually became a reality. In reality, Russia's harsh cold made Otto engines, which used gas as fuel, unsuitable compared to Europe. The extreme cold caused the fuel gas to freeze. One of the reasons Otto sent Daimler and Maybach to Russia was to solve this problem. Daimler and Maybach, encouraged by their wise wives, left for Russia in September, a place with a completely different environment from Europe. They stayed in Russia for about 3 months, assessing the engine's condition and issues in the harsh environment, and became convinced that petroleum was a more suitable fuel than gas.